Hi, everybody. Hello, whether you're watching live or you are watching later, welcome. I am just adjusting a few settings and then we will begin. So I'm just going to zoom myself in a little bit. Hope that you're all doing well. And yeah, I can see that Lily B is in the chat. Hello. And also I have a cat here who's saying hello. So, okay. Thank you for joining me. It's been such a good time in this last period to really grow and learn a lot through the ascension that we're all going through at the moment. I say a good time, but I know for some of us it may have been quite challenging. Today I have a message to share with you from Mother Mary. And then we're going to talk about how to actually embody the teachings of what she's offered here. And then if anybody has any questions, even if you're watching later, feel free to put them in the comments, and I might address them at a different time. So before we begin though, whether you're watching at home later or now, I want to invite you to drop in with me so that you can be in a really good energetic state to receive the transmission that's come through from Mary for you. And I'm going to do it with you. So in your own time, I want to invite you to close the eyes, bring your attention and focus into your own being. And just giving yourself a moment here to connect with your own energy. And you might put your hands on your heart, and if you are a woman, putting one hand on the heart and one hand on the womb area, and just making a loving connection through your awareness there. And I invite you to soften into this space, especially the womb area. A lot of women are holding tension in the womb area and not even really realizing it. So if you can provide yourself with the intention to soften, that's enough. And letting go into this moment, into your breath. And whenever you feel comfortable and ready, opening your eyes in your own time. So when we're all back, if you are live, I would really love if you guys could just confirm for me that the audio is working okay, that you can hear me and everything. And that my cat's purring is not too loud. So I'm going to assume it's working, and unless I hear otherwise. Okay. Looks like Panda is joining us. All right. So I'm looking down at my notes here. This was a really beautiful channeling that came through. I wasn't expecting it, but I was sitting there healing something for myself and, as usual, working with my guides. And then Mother Mary became present. And it just turned into a beautiful offering. And what I want to share firstly about Mother Mary is that she is kind of like an archetypal essence now. She's also a being who you can connect with at any moment. You could call her an ascended master. I prefer the words mentor than master for these group of beings, because what they're doing is that they're carrying energetically the light codes and raised and higher consciousness of humanity that they were able to achieve and live in their own life. And in that way, it became a gift to all of us. And so when we talk about ascended masters, we're talking about these beings who are holding the key codes and the light for you to access their particular lesson or energetic themes and rays of light, these sorts of things. And so Mother Mary, one of the biggest messages that I feel even now to just share is that her expression and who she's been painted as today in many of the more religious areas is not true. Yes, she was the mother of Yahweh or Jesus. Yes, she had a virgin birth, but it didn't go as what is written exactly in the Bible. And this being is a being that really holds a lot of the mother essence, mother love of the divine feminine. She also holds leadership, especially feminine leadership and empowerment. She was a leader or one of the higher priestess. I'm actually hearing her say something to me, so I'm just going to give myself a moment to listen to her. Yeah, she's just confirming that she is one of these higher in the order of the sisterhoods and in the role of mother in that way. And whenever I feel into her, she really has like a very big energy. It's very, very, very big. And what that indicates to me as a channel is that she's holding, like, she's not just one essence. We are all essences within essences, or souls within souls, part of a greater being that is God and life. And she holds a lot of like the divine feminine archetypes or goddesses, you know. So there could be within her consciousness, there could be the essence of Kali and Shakti and like these different deities and things. She's that big one because she was a mother essence, and that makes sense because it's the mother of these daughter essences, and we are the daughter of the divine feminine as well. So yeah, this channeling is a message for anybody who is here to receive it at this time or now or later. Again, you don't have to be live to receive. When you receive a channeling, there is an energetic transmission that's going on within the words as well. As long as your sacred permission is open to receive it, you will receive it. And yeah, I'm really excited to share her words with you. I had them written down, and then we're going to expand on her offering and the embodiment of it. Okay. So Mary, Mother Mary says, I gave birth to the son of the sun. And that's S-O-N, like son, of the sun, like S-U-N. I gave birth to the son of the sun and the daughter of Eve. She was my strength and fortitude. Every day we received guidance and strength from the highest order, the kingdoms of the sun and the daughters of the first sun, Venus. I embalmed him and treasured him as his light, his resurrection essence became, and as his light took form. As his light took place, it became form. So Mother Mary began by sharing about her life and the truth of her work with her son Yahweh, and also with Mary Magdalene. We had been shown by the high priestesses of the order on how to create the change conditions necessary for his healing. He nurtured himself back to life. His death was an act of invitation for all beings in service to love. Yes, to initiate a pathway between heaven and earth, water to wine, blood to form. and this was his essence, the blood. I held him in my arms as he crossed over, guided by the many thousands of angels who had overseen his project. What others did not know and could not bear was the fierce love of the Son, my Son, held for humanity. It was a fear many still feel challenged by today, that they allow darkness and feel parts of themselves will burn if the light is shone upon them. They are afraid to be loved. My Son taught men what it was to be human and yet lead another life that gave and gives salvation to others. Who is not worthy? All of us. Who is so worthy? All of God's children. You cannot be afraid of that which you are. In essence, love, or in form. And two, to transcend this body with relative ease once the essence is cultivated, and to no longer waste away to disease of doubt. Step toward forgiveness for the many others and yourself. You are a leader for humanity when you remember this power. The utmost respect and divine intervention activates in your life when you're willingly surrendered to the right to serve, to forgive, and be forgiven. You are chosen to do something extraordinary in this life, just as my Son did. A vessel is not a body. No, it is a soul first. And as a soul, who are you? Who do you choose to be in this life? A desire to serve comes once in a lifetime when all else has failed and convenience is not of importance. A narrowing of the eyes to see perfectly clearly through the lens of the heart. She is your strength, guidance, and the telltale sign you are grown as a human being. You are loved. You deserve love and the freedom to forgive others and yourself. Let it lead you. From the earth to the sun to love. Mother Mary. It's kind of like a beautiful love letter from her to her daughters and sons, isn't it? That's the thing about these beings and why it's important to share their messages, that they are in some ways you could look at it as spiritual parents of us. They did work in their lifetime so that you could be here now with the degree of access to the heart and the degree of access to high vibrational frequency and light, even in this earth of density. The work that they did sings in our collective consciousness and is imparted through channels and things for you to still be able to reach that. Anything that any human being reaches in your lifetime or in their lifetime is a sacred doorway for other people to access that frequency and to rise with you. Rose says, that was so beautiful. I felt that very deeply. Yeah. When I finished channeling from her, I was like crying. I think I just felt her love. I felt so loved by her. And I hope that you do, whoever is watching this, I hope that you do as well. So we're going to move into the other piece, which is what I would describe as like a embodiment practice or lesson guided by her as well. And But I want to just go over the channeling again for a minute, just to tell you some of the other things that were dropping in during this channeling as well. So in the beginning, she says, I give birth to the son of the sun and the daughter of Eve. So the son of the sun is obvious, that is Yahweh. And what that means is the being Yahweh or Jesus, he basically embodied and held and contained and lived the essence of the sun, which is a radiance of God. And because he came into a physical form, he brought that into an accessible frequency, basically. It made it accessible for people of the earth to be able to access that frequency if we choose it, if we choose to follow the sun, love, God, the heart, and some people might say to follow Christ. But they're talking about the light that he contained. And that's what he wanted to impart in his lifetime, is not so much the man, other than his story as a man shows us what we're capable of, and that we can, overcome anything, and that humanity is brilliantly beautiful. But his essence, his sunlight, is the invitation that he carried through his life. And so Mary saying she gave birth to the son of the sun. So he was the son of the sun. And he was the son of the white sun, which is a masculine sun. And that's the sun that we experience now. But the sun that we experience now hasn't always been this sun. It hasn't been like this. It hasn't always been white. You may have heard of the black sun. I probably touched on this in older videos and things when I've talked about Venus. Because then she says, I gave birth to the son of the sun. And then she says, the daughter of Eve, she was my strength and fortitude. The daughter of Eve that she's referring to is Mary Magdalene. And she says she was strength and fortitude. So she's saying that they connected, and in Jesus' lifetime, they supported each other. And they were in this holy ritual that was going on through the life of this being and through Mother Mary's womb, and then through the merging of Mary Magdalene and Yeshua. They supported each other as sisters do, and they were in a sisterhood of a priestess class associated with the Isis temples. I suspect it may have been called something different originally. Even from the previous era of Earth, this was the lineage of Venus that they carried through, because before this Earth it wasn't this Earth. We could say that it was Venus, and it was a dark black sun, and it was a very feminine Earth. And that is kind of the essence of what Mother Mary was able to through her incarnation here. She carried that into this Earth. And my energetic and psychic feeling is that she was the last who carried. She made a bridge. She carried this essence from the old Earth of Venus into the current sort of era, I guess, that we live in now. And it changed from being a lineage of the sisterhoods of Venus and the dawn of Venus, these sorts of very, very old era. Oh my gosh, my cat is rubbing my microphone. It might have got very purry just then. Anyway, so she crossed over this light, the memory, I should say, the memory and essence of the old feminine way of the Venus sisterhoods. And she was she was one of the last to embody it. And then through the new era and Mary Magdalene and all of that, it kind of turned into what we could perceive as the Rose Lineage. And that's associated again with the Egyptian times and the time of Yeshua and things like that, and the sisterhoods of Isis. And now, it's like we are the daughters of the Rose. We are the rebirth of the Rose, is what I'm hearing from Mary now. Very cool. So yeah, she said that she was with Mary and that they gave each other strength and fortitude to fulfill this role. And they needed a lot of strength and fortitude because they loved this being, like it's this her son and her partner, her lover for Mary Magdalene. And they all of them had a great intention that was bigger than them and higher than them. It's so amazing to me. Like, we need to remember that these were people. Like, these are people. It's like you or I doing something like that and just being so proficient in our alchemical studies and all of that. And it was a slightly different time of Earth, which made magic a little easier, you could say. Yeah, but they did that and they sacrificed so much. So she says that Mary was her strength and fortitude, and that every day they received guidance and strength from the highest orders, the kingdom of the sun and the daughters of the sun, the first sun, Venus. So my sense there was that they were receiving and channeling and working with their sort of teachers in spirit. The highest orders, the kingdom of the sun, so the light beings of the sun, and the daughters of the sun, the first sun, Venus. And that's what I was saying earlier. So they kept connecting with those lines of light, and those, I'm sure that there were teacher beings that they worked with and channeled as well, just like we do now. Yeah, and then she's talking about the ritual. She says that she embalmed him and treasured him. She says, I treasured him as light. And then I had to put in my brackets here, resurrection essence. So she says, I treasured him as light, resurrection essence, and as his light took place. And in brackets it says form. So I treasured him as his light, brackets, resurrection, took place, brackets, form. So what they were doing was cultivating the light, and I'm sure a huge, extraordinary light that needed to be cultivated in him to create what we could label as a resurrection essence. And that meant that it could become a new form for him. And this is what's described in other texts and things I've read as well. There's a great book called, just looking for it on my shelf now, I've nearly got it. The Magdalene manuscript. And there's some beautiful channelings from Mary Magdalene. And she talks about this as well, and that they talk about cultivating the Ka light or the Kundalini light, and the way that Yeshua kind of built, my sense is he kind of built like a new or much more fortified energetic body. And there's probably a lot more to it, but that was what was going on with resurrection. Yeah, she says we were shown this by the high priestesses of the order, how to create the change and the conditions necessary for his healing. So they were shown how to do this, and that he brought himself back to life. He nurtured himself back to life. I feel that she means like he built up his light himself to do this, and his death was an act of invitation and initiation of a pathway between heaven and earth, and all of this. So that's exactly what Yahweh's life and the ritual was if he would do a great alchemy by taking on darkness in his own being and then dying but living through it, and through blood magic as well, he was able to do transmutation or alchemical work that allowed a pathway of how to achieve what he achieved, how to come into the heart, how to come into remembrance and embodiment of who we are, and to do this in a way that it changes the blood, because blood is, might talk about this in another video, but blood is not just a physical substance, it's an etheric substance as well that is a container for your soul light or essence as well. So when his blood was spilt on the earth, it gave everything that he had built up and that he was and who he was born as, that light of the sun, it gave it to the earth as a being first, and then into the collective field and the collective consciousness of humanity. before this ritual was done because there was a darkness with humanity where there was a loss of connection to the heart. The heart was starting to be forgotten. Before that, it was, there was a darker time. And so this was done as a gift and a remembrance. And then she talks about his death and then she talks about how people fear the great love, the fierce love of the son, of her son, one and the same, that sometimes we don't feel worthy to be loved, and sometimes we don't feel worthy to be loved so unconditionally by life, God, the Son, Yahweh, whatever you call this beautiful universe. And this, if we're doing that, then we're afraid of what we are. We become afraid and resistant towards the light that you are. And this is what creates separation and suffering in our collective and in your life. And many people I know in my own journey, when I really, over multiple times, but when I really sat with being able to receive or even touch, like I am loved unconditionally, like I am loved so unconditionally, I can notice, and I've done work with myself of what she's talking about, the parts of us that don't feel worthy, the parts of us that feel resistant, the parts of our ego that will cling and try not to die under the light of the great light that dissolves all attachments and identity. Yet that's the only way to our salvation and freedom. So she also is talking about the medicine of forgiveness for yourself and others, and that she says you are a leader for humanity when you remember this power. The utmost respect and divine intervention activates in your life when you willingly surrender to the right and service to forgive and be forgiven. Isn't that amazing? So she's saying that if you can practice forgiveness, you have this extraordinary power. It's a true power to live in this life, to forgive others and spread the medicine of forgiveness and unconditional love. And I love how she says that it is a service and a right. So it's your right to be forgiven within yourself, to forgive yourself. It's your right to forgive others. Why would that be a right for you? Because when we don't forgive others, we are keeping ourselves in an imprisonment. It makes us unwell. It makes us sick in some ways. And you do notice that if you have ever done work with forgiveness energy, you'll notice that when you finally forgive that person, there's a lightness that comes through you. And it might feel that lightness, that spaciousness. The word we would use is freedom. Something has moved. And I love that she says that it's a power, like it's a power that you have. And it truly is. Like if I take what she said and I imagine that I went around life forgiving everybody and myself, and if we all did that, how would our world be? It would be so amazing. Yeah, and I think that forgiveness is such a sometimes it's like a cliche, like tacky, like topic sort of thing that stops us from really actually learning about it and seeing it for what it is and having that power. Like it's not a rainbows and lollipops like flimsy tacky thing. It's an incredible power. It also takes strength and wisdom to forgive. And I will say, we also have to go on a journey with forgiveness. There's more to it than is said in this channeling, but this is about the remembrance of your power to forgive. And it comes up here too, because I remember in my journey of learning, like, what is forgiveness? How do I forgive? Like, I want to forgive. I can't forgive, like my whole journey. that still continues. I remember realizing, like forgiveness is unconditional love, and unconditional love is forgiveness, or unconditional acceptance, which is love, which is forgiveness. That these are all the same things. And if you try to feel into each one, you'll notice that it's all the same feeling. And that's what it is. When you forgive somebody, it's restarting your unconditional love for somebody. And this includes the somebody maybe being yourself, of like, I made a mistake. I accept this. And now my love for myself or for the other flows freely again. My love has stopped being conditional on the fact that this person did or didn't do X, Y, Z, or that I did or didn't do X, Y, Z. That's conditional love. So forgiveness is a journey, but it's an incredible power. And, I trust that it's something important for us to be working on right now, especially in this time. I trust that it's come through this channeling from this great being, because it's important in your life and in my life now. It's also important for leadership as well, which we each are. And I think she says, you're chosen to do something extraordinary in this life, as my son did, and to recognize that a vessel is not a body, it's a soul first. And as a soul, who are you? Who do you choose to be in this life? And she talks about a desire to serve comes once in a lifetime, when all has failed and convenience is not of importance. And narrowing of the eyes to see clearly through the lens of the heart. I love that. I love this channeling because she is trying to invite you to see yourself as a leader for humanity as well, because you are. And your medicine, just being who you are, but the healing, all of that, that is amazing. Like, you are a leader here as well. And that we do this through the heart, and we do this not because it's convenient, but we do this because it's who and what we are. And we're not a body, we're a soul first. And I love when she said that she's talking about the heart. The heart is your strength, guidance, and the telltale sign you are grown as a human being. And that goes into our next thing about the embodiment practice, where she talks about us being children. And that's what we're on. We're on a journey here to grow up as spiritual beings. And she says, you deserve love. You deserve the freedom to forgive others and yourself, and let that lead you. How would your life be different if you let that lead you? If every morning that was a decision that you made? How would you feel inside? And how would others feel around you? You don't even know the ripple effects that can happen in this collective, in this time of ascension, especially where everything is magnified, tripled. It's like the butterfly effect is like tremendous at this time. And then she signs off with, from the earth to the sun to love. And I saw that as her, and I drew a little symbol here that I was trying to draw. I'm going to show you this. It's a bit awkward there. That's the sun, and then a pathway going up into a star known as Alcyone. Alcyone is a star in the Pleiades system. It's the primary or brightest star there. And it's a star of love. It's a star that contains, represents, holds, embodies the unconditional love of heaven on earth and paradise, Eden, that we are all co-creating at this time. It's humanity's future. It's our ever-present. It's the next sun. It's actually really cool, you guys, because actually there's really cool energetic mechanics that go on. I'm just looking out the window at my sky right now, which is full of sunlight. And the sun has got Alcyone light coming behind it and through it. If you're psychic, you can see that, because that's this time of ascension is the time of the changing suns. And I have a video about this if you want to understand that a bit more. It's called The Time of the Changing Suns, I think. Yeah, from the earth to the sun to love. So she's saying from the earth, we are here from the earth to the sun, up into the sun, to love, back home to God, or that star Alcyon, humanity's future. And that's a pathway that she is offering and that you will have received energetically through this transmission and any time that you connect to Mother Mary. So, how are you guys doing? If anybody wants to say anything, share anything about the transmission, please put it in the chat or leave a comment if you're watching this later or even now, whatever you want to do. Because I think it's really beautiful for all of us to see the workings of the magic in our experience. Okay, so this is the embodiment practice. And embodiment means that I actually embody my soul light. And this word is thrown around a lot, and words like ascension and things like that. But the process of ascension is a metaphysical, alchemical, transmutational process that Yeshua did in a very short time in his lifetime, in a way. He had other elements involved, but that's kind of what he was doing, is you're working with your soul light to build it up. And embodiment is how much of my truest soul essence can I embody in this body and let it like radiate and flow freely through my physical and energetic bodies. Because what happens is we get energetic scars, blockages. Buddhist people call these samskaras. I think that's the best technical word. And it's like, the free-flowing liquid light of your soul is always trying to come in and move around your body. And it also gets nurtured through the furnace of the heart, built up through the fire of the heart. Your heart is like a furnace, I should say, that builds the fire of love, because this is the portal for your higher self energy. And it goes around and stuff, but when there's blockages and things, I'm like, oh, that chakra is like literally like that baby chakra is looking a bit twisty or something. That's because we have emotional wounding that everything mirrors. So if you have emotional wounding, it's going to be in the energetic body. If you have energetic body, it's going to be in the emotions, and potentially in the physical, depending how dense it is, and how long it's been there and things like this. And that stops your soul light from being fully embodied. So the more that we open up ourselves emotionally and heal ourselves emotionally, which heals us energetically, and also take care of your physical body, which heals everything else, your soul light can actually come through. So it's one thing to receive channelings and stuff like that, and it's another thing to practice embodiment as well. And that's, how I've become who I am today and healed myself. It's been amazing. I'm just looking at the chat here. Rosa says, this is so special to me, as I was told that Mother Mary is one of my spirit guides. Yeah, beautiful. Lily B says, I wonder if the upcoming solar eclipse has any positive significance on the enlightenment process. Ooh, that's a good question. I want to come back to that after I talk about this embodiment practice. Also, Laura has a question here too. Hi, Laura. What do you understand by sacrifice? Thank you. Yes. Let me address that one now, because it is quite relevant specifically to what I'm about to share. I want to make sure that we understand what we're saying to each other. So I feel like sacrifice, it can mean whatever you want it to mean. Like in some contexts, sacrifice is really unhealthy, like self-sacrificing, that sort of usage of it, a weird blood. So it's just a word. And sacrifice is to, I guess it is to give something and to have an exchange there. And I guess sacrifice, in a lot of contexts, it implies loss. Like more, an exchange is I get something back. Sacrifice is, there's an implication of loss. However, on that note, when these beings, and as I'm teaching and learning about this part of human history and human development, where I said Mother Mary and Yeshua and all of them, they sacrifice, or Jesus sacrificed himself. I just think we need to change the definitions of it for ourselves and understand it in the context of what it is actually, what they're saying spiritually. Because if we talk about Jesus's sacrifice, in my opinion, I'm just going to use this as a way to explain to your question. In my opinion, there are people who talk about Jesus' sacrifice in an uneducated way, like maybe people who have been deep in the religions and they're not aware of any of this stuff. They'll say he sacrificed himself, like he died, like he was it's almost like victim-y, like there was a victim, and as I said, like an element of huge loss to him, like he died so you could live, and he's just a victim in that whole scenario. That is a totally incorrect understanding of it. What he did, and the healthy sense of it, at least in this context, is more of an exchange, you could say, but really it's a transmutation. So when I sacrifice my ego, yes, I lose it. I give up my ego. If he sacrificed his physical life, yes, he did that. He sacrificed, I guess, having a normal life, and he sacrificed the potential possibility of living much more peacefully and not wearing the extra energy of collective transgressions that he did. But it wasn't like this victim sacrifice thing. Like, he chose to do that. His soul chose to do that. His soul was kind of like designed in terms of like the rituals that the women did to call in that sunlight. It was a complete choice. And in the sacrifice, he, like, I just feel him now, like the love that it's not that he even got back. I want to say he got back so much, but the language of got back is wrong. Like, he just gives me this impression of like, he got to go home. Like, he went home, and even in an embodied way, even in the resurrection side of it, he got to know God. He got to live God. Like, that's not a victim-y sacrifice. He sacrificed his physical vessel, and he sacrificed, I guess, ego, because he wanted to. And I hope that answers the question, Laura. You can tell me if that doesn't fully cover it. But yeah, I think you need to choose what words mean to you, and you need to look at context as well. And in the spiritual sense, when we're talking about ascension processes and we're teaching about ascension and the word sacrifice is used, it usually means that letting go of an old self, of the ego, in Yeshua's case of like his physical life and stuff like that. When I said Mary and stuff sacrificed so much, I meant like they sacrificed their time and they were dedicated. And again, like they could have just spent their time drinking tea or something, but they didn't. But it's not like they were victim or they didn't get anything in that. They got to live their divine purpose. It's amazing. Yeah. Like right now, I'm sitting here doing this for free because I love it, but I get to live my divine purpose, and that's amazing. And that enriches me, and there's no sacrifice there. It just, yeah. Okay. And I'm going to come back to this other question about solar eclipse in a little bit. Okay. So the embodiment practice for this channeling revolves around remembering the purity of your being, remembering the self-forgiveness, the recovery of your forgiveness for yourself and love. That's the pathway. We are children of the God Force. We are here to grow. And as children, we are forever innocent. Innocence is the message here. Remember your innocence. Children make mistakes. They forget things. They want instant gratification, as in they can be selfish. They are imperfect, but you love and desire them in your world anyway. For they are beautiful, perfect, divine creatures here as a blessing of renewal and life, with a divine purpose to uphold for the good of the service of all. Yahweh said that. I wrote a little note here, channeled from Yahweh. And this is the message. Children are beautiful, perfect, divine creatures as a blessing of renewal and life, with a divine purpose to uphold for the good and service of all. So are you. So are you. Do you see this embodiment practice or teaching here? Sometimes it's challenging to be like, okay, I know I want to forgive. How do I forgive? What is forgiveness? To grasp these concepts. One pathway of grasping this concept is the remembrance of the truth that you are a child of God. And like the guide said here, you need to remember your innocence. Remember that as children, they forget stuff. They make mistakes. They're selfish because you're here to grow. You're here to do the growing. You're here to do the mistakes. You're not here to get it right. That doesn't make any sense. You're here to do the mistakes because that's how you learn. So to make that wrong by forgetting your innocence, your worthiness of unconditional love and forgiveness, by blocking that from yourself, and perhaps through seeing others and relating to others in an unforgiving way, we are going against God and nature. You're a child here. Like, we are spiritual children with a specific intention to come here and like trip all over ourselves and like maybe hurt each other accidentally and like all these different things. And then we go into our brains and make ourselves enemies. And in that way, anytime that you are in resistance instead of self-acceptance to yourself, you're being unforgiving towards yourself. And you're being obviously not loving, and you're being conditionally loving to yourself. But when we remember that we're children of God, we get to remember and embody the purity of our innocence, the purity of our being. And this is one of those things that it's almost like when you really get that, if you really touch how perfectly perfect you always are, no matter what you do, no matter what the worst thing in the world that you could do or not do or achieve or not achieve or whatever, just by existing, just by blinking, just by being, you are so innocent and so pure that you are unconditionally loved. Your innocence, and the thing is, your innocence and your purity, it cannot be changed. It can't be changed. No matter what anybody else tries to put on you or says about you, no matter what you do or say to yourself, no matter what you do or mistakes you make in this life, no matter how bad you are, the baddest person, the worst person in the world, the most toxic person in the world is actually an innocent being of love, a child of God who's simply forgotten this. And you can see that in this. Let's talk about this, like the extreme of forgetting. If we let ourselves forget our innocence, look at really sick, unwell people, like, sociopathic people, murderous people, people that steal, violent people, all of this. They wouldn't be able to do any of that if they remembered their innocence. They wouldn't. And if they were forgiven, they would be free. And it's up to each of us, to heal ourselves by forgiving ourselves, by remembering and finding the pathway to that self-forgiveness. It is through remembering, oh, I'm a child of God. And even though, so for example, even though I feel really like yucky and guilty right now or something about that thing I did, or I feel shame and I just feel unworthy. Even if I feel those things, that's not the truth of who and what I am. And that's not true, because I'm a child of God. I'm pure and innocent. Nothing can change that. I'm worthy. Nothing can change that. It just is. So if I can touch that and I can practice that and I can accept that, let me not believe the voice of my woundings that say, oh, like I shouldn't have done this and da da da. It doesn't mean that you don't be in truth and you acknowledge and you say, yes, I probably should not have done that. That didn't serve me or others, things like that. But the addiction to shame and the addiction to building up an illusion of ourselves that we're like bad, that's what Mary was saying in her channeling. She's talking about, she said, when that light, that fierce love, fierce unconditional love of the sun is shone upon you, people veer away, they pull away from the awareness of their own innocence. The ego pulls away because it's attached to the identity of around shame. Sometimes we're resistance to that on an emotional development level, because facing the reality of how unconditionally lovable and worthy you are means that you need to be in recognition of the fact that maybe there were people in your past or in your childhood that didn't treat you right. And it's easier not to see that if you don't believe that you're worthy of better. This is just one example of many protection mechanisms, egoically and emotionally, that can be a block for you to actually take in and embody a state of unconditional love or forgiveness for yourself. And I want to make a note here too, that typically the way that you forgive or love other people is something that you're doing at yourself as well. We often project that outwardly as well. So I'm just checking the chat here. Okay, I'll answer this question. Lily B says, what would you say is more important, forgiving ourselves or forgiving others? Let me feel into that for a minute. I think that when we forgive ourselves and we actually have a strong practice of that, it's natural to forgive others. I think that when you're not forgiving of yourself, you're not going to be very forgiving to others. So I don't know that they are of lesser importance, but they're both very, very important. But I would say if you focus on forgiving yourself, naturally, forgiving others will just naturally become easier. You'll just find that you become a more forgiving person. Some people are too forgiving of others because they haven't forgiven themselves. Because there's like weird things that go on when you're too forgiving with others. Weird things, I mean, around like worth and shame, where people are playing out. They're like, I'm so forgiving, but really you're disrespecting yourself and you're not forgiving yourself. And there's like a whole thing going on there. So I think that the powerful move is to forgive yourself and trust that forgiving others will start to develop as well. And they're both really, really important. Yeah, so let me look and see if there's anything else to add here. Yeah. So I think that's it. So the embodiment practice is for you to actually practice forgiveness of yourself and of others, and to practice remembrance. You could call it a remembrance practice. Remember your innocence as you go about your day, as you go about your life. Remember your innocence. Remember your purity. Remember that you're a child of God. Remember that you are here to make mistakes. You are here to learn. So just like a child, you are loved through that. Can you even maybe like take the lens of like, if there was a little child, right, who, let's say there was a child who was like doing something like unhealthy or just like a bit annoying or something like that, like they were making a child mistake. You don't go, oh my goodness, like you should know better, like you suck and la la, and like go off at them. If you're a healthy person, you go, it's okay, like they didn't know, and then you teach them. Same thing that you need to do with yourself. It's okay. If you knew better, you would have done better. If you knew how to do better, really, if you had to resolve your resistance to being able to do better in that situation or that time, you would have. So forgive yourself. Teach yourself. Look at, what you could have or should have done better, and try again with love. The element of unforgivingness, the element of shame that we all bring into our emotional journeys doesn't need to be there at all. At all. And people have such things around this, like using guilt and shame and unforgiving to feel like a good person, because we have weird issues with worth and punishment and all that, all because we don't always remember how worthy we innately are, and that your worth, it's just a state, it's just a fact. You can't change it. You have to accept it. You have to accept that you're worthy, that you're already forgiven, that you're already unconditionally loved and accepted. Now, always, every breath, every moment. What if you accepted that? Rosa says, the part I am here to make mistakes and learn is so reassuring and healing. I tend to be very hard on myself. Yes. Yeah, exactly. And being hard on ourselves, it doesn't really work anyway, you guys. It just builds up the toxicity within. Even psychologically, honestly, people have done studies to see that positive reinforcement works a lot better in training anything than negative reinforcement. And fear-based learning is not true integrated learning. It's not. It becomes just like a conditioned trauma response rather than a deeper learned wisdom. Okay. The last note I have here about all of this is about our energetic and magical history, which we have touched on today. And I think it's really cool that Mary wanted to share it with you all. And you remember me talking about how the earth used to have, we used to be in a black sun kind of world or earth. And the black sun was a feminine sun. And its light was not protruding, which is very masculine, like the white sun that we have now. Its light, its essence, it just had this kind of almost like watery, like a dark portal kind of vibe to it. And everything was very feminine, and even the way that things manifested was very opposite. But what I saw and learned, and what we are gradually going to begin to understand, is that beings like Mother Mary, as I said, who is bigger than that one incarnation, who was a very big light being, she and other beings, they made the sun. The sun that we get to have now is there because of this alchemical sort of work that earlier priestess sisterhoods and brotherhoods and all these beings built up their light to make new light. And they did this at the end of the era with the dark sun, and where we could perceive Earth as being a Venus kind of era. And I remember, I've had memories about this too, that they knew that the white sun was coming, or that there was going to be a change. And they knew that the black sun was changing, and that the masculine, because this had been a very feminine world, the masculine was rising. And so these priestesses and all of this, they did beautiful rituals and things like this to call in or create a new kind of essence and a new kind of light, which was the masculine kingdoms of the sun, the sons of the sun. And this process of holy birth, where women don't have a male seed. They just create a baby or, an essence. That was all you did in the feminine era of Earth, because there wasn't masculine. And that's what is meant by Mary having a virgin birth, is that they did ritual to call and cultivate this essence into her body. They didn't, she wasn't impregnated by anything except light and cultivation of that light and through ritual. And so there's a lot of magic that's involved here. And my awareness and realization at the end of this channeling was that at that end time, the earth was of that Venus dark time, the earth was being reborn and birthed, and they gathered it together through a long line of lineage, the sons of the suns. So that was those new masculine beings that those priestesses in the Venus era had to create. And they created the sons of the sun because they were son of the sun because it was the white sun coming in, the son of the new sun or the white sun. And they created a direct line into, and what created resurrection energy or rebirth was a new light on earth. So they created the next earth kind of that we're in now. And that white sun, I love that we talk about this magic and I can look out my window and see that magic. Like that's what the sun is. Spiritually, energetically, it is Elohim. It is love. It is a consciousness, like a multi-consciousness of higher beings. It is a doorway. It's a portal. It's so much. And we are so blessed. We're so blessed by these great teachers and beings who in their lifetime and still continuing multidimensionally did the work for you and I to be here under that great white sun and to have remembrance of the heart, to be able to have access to the heart, that pathway that Yahweh made, which is all leading us to a higher place of remembrance and ascension, the Star of Alcyon. What a blessing. It's amazing. So I'm just checking the chat here again. Lily B says, sometimes it's difficult to go through it when you don't have been able to establish direct guidance. I think the absence of capacity to communicate with guides can make it more hard for people. Yes, definitely. You should all, and we should all, strive to develop a relationship with our higher self / your guides, angels, all of that. It starts with a relationship with the higher self through the heart. Because navigating life and healing, especially healing, alchemical, if you wanted to practice true alchemy, always begins with connecting to the life force within or God within. And yeah, life can be harder when you don't have access to this team of guides who are literally here around you all the time, and these beautiful mentors like Mother Mary trying to tell you like helpful advice and what to do in your life. They usually won't, I should say, they don't tell you what to do, they guide you. They don't intervene with your free will, but they will guide you. And I know that in my life, I don't think that I would be here in the same place if I hadn't cultivated a relationship with my higher self and practice that every day, or try to every day, and listen to my guides. And yeah, that's what I want to continue offering here, is this message of channeling, that it's like we don't all have to be channels to be navigating life better with our guides. But as a channel, Mary's using me, I think, because I can offer that for you, as well as you building up your own empowerment to yourself and your own team, which is a practice of intuition development, but a practice of really higher self or higher light embodiment. And if you keep watching these classes and things like that, you're going to learn more about that. I'm going to be developing some more things in the future. So stay tuned for all the things. Actually, one of the next classes I have planned is about, I forgot. And yeah, it's actually about connecting to spirit guides and higher self and like the importance of that. It'll be like the next one or the one after. Is one of the next 3 or so, which is going to be really cool. And yeah, I'm going to endeavor to do more of these lives because I decided that live streaming is where it's at. It's fun. We actually get to interact a bit. I like it. And you can watch it now or later, which is great. And yeah, if you haven't already, please do subscribe to this channel. Please share it with your friends. Please like this video and please leave a comment. All these things really help the channel, the channel. And yeah, if you subscribe, you'll always be up to date and you won't miss anything. And make sure you hit that little bell thing as well, because that actually makes sure that you're like properly subscribed. Yeah. So have a great day, everybody. Oh, wait, actually, no, I'm going to keep my word. And there was another question here about the eclipse. Come back. Let's find that question and then we'll finish with that, okay? Okay. I'm glad I remembered. Okay. Lily B said, I wonder if the upcoming solar eclipse has any positive significance on the enlightenment process. Solar eclipse. Yeah, I actually haven't learned too much about that. So I'm going to actually close my eyes and talk to Spirit about it now for us. So the guides are saying, I was going to tell you what they're saying. They're saying that solar eclipses are a time of magic. They could be seen as the division of the worlds. And I'm seeing like, it's just a little image to explain what they're saying of like a light side and a dark side, because that's kind of what a solar eclipse is, right? And I'm just watching something. Hang on, this is real psychic work in action. They're saying this thing about how if you use a solar eclipse like a time of division, meaning like the period where it's solar, you're in the light, and the period where it goes dark, you're in the shadow. And meaning if you were, let's say you were to do a ritual, you wanted to work with this, you would, on the light side, do your light work. So focusing on what you want, intentions, this sort of light work is building stuff up and building light up. And then when it's the darker time or the darker hours or minutes, whatever it is, that's when you would focus on and do work on the shadow. And your shadow is the things that you're clearing out, the things that have not been living in the light inside of you. And that through doing that, if you were to use it that way, that creates unity, and you'll create a more harmonious state within your being. Which makes sense, right? They're talking about do this and this, you're integrating into more of a wholeness. And yeah, those physical structures and forms of like an absence of light or a darkness is just going to amplify that work that you're doing. And so in terms of enlightenment process, if we're talking about ascension, enlightenment, it's all self-healing, then yeah, definitely. Everyone keeps talking about it. Yeah. I think with a lot of these energetic things, it's all natural. Remember, guys, if anybody ever, I'm saying this because I keep looking at this like we're talking so much about the sun, you guys, that I just keep like, because I feel like I'm in a conversation with the sun, so and you guys, so, and I'm in love with it, so yeah. But what I was going to say is, like, in the past, there was a time where I saw somebody, like a teacher person, talking about or making a video about how like the eclipse, like where it goes dark, was spiritually dangerous, and like you should be indoors when that happens, and like all these things. I don't think that anything natural that Gaia is doing like that is dangerous. I think it's all about how you use it, and that's what you need to remember here, is that you have free will, and that Gaia is neutral, if not unconditional love. So yeah. And also too, to answer the question of like, is this significant? You can hear like my message of like, well, here's like what spirit is saying for a general purpose kind of sense. But also, if you want to do this sort of work, tune into your own intuition as well. Like, take what I said, and if you trust me and resonate with me, then that's true, and use that. But also ask your own self intuition and your guides and everybody, like, what's the unique way that I might work with this eclipse or this astrological alignment or whatever, with where I'm at life right now and who I am as a soul, and trust that and see what comes through as well, and add that into your like practice around these sorts of events. Yeah. Okay. Now I'm going to go. Thank you all so much for being here. As I said, please subscribe, share on your social medias, and I will see you in the next one. Okay? It's 111. Yay. Okay. Bye.